Welcome to the Queer Love Podcast, the silly and serious shenanigans of two queer relationship coaches. I am your host, Elizabeth Cunningham.
And I'm your host, Lee Greeps.
On this podcast, we talk about how to live your best queer life with fulfilling, healthy relationships and anything else that makes your little queer heart happy. Because living your life outside of the heteronormative scripts is totally possible for you.
Each episode, we explore all things queer love from our professional perspective as relationship coaches, our own personal experiences, and as partners.
If you love our show, follow us on TikTok, Instagram, or Twitter at Queer Love Relationships. You can also check out our website, www.queerloverelationships.com.
Thanks for following us and enjoy this episode.
Not accepting or tolerating or excusing or justifying or anything like that. It's not even agreeing. It's, choosing something is not necessarily agreeing with something. Welcome to the Queer Love Podcast.
Woo, woo, woo. Woo, woo, woo,
All right. How's everybody feeling? How are you? Are you okay? Are we okay?
How are you, sweetie?
Oh my God. I was hanging out with a friend recently and she was like, it's got like mommy and daddy are fighting energy.
That's very accurate. I mean, authority figures are fighting.
Yeah. So we've been holding space for people, and to just show up and to feel how you feel. So I hope that you've had spaces, people in spaces where you can just show up, you can feel how you feel, you can say whatever you need to say. Not everybody has those spaces where you can just be unfiltered. I think that that's a part of like the, being with process and like processing through things is being able to say things unfiltered. Mm-hmm. So I hope that you have had spaces like that. Yeah. Anything that you want to say before we start our episode today?
I love you. I love you. You're not alone.
We do love you, and you're not alone. It's very true. What is our topic today? What's our episode topic today?
How did we phrase it? Having what it means, looks like to choose your relationship, to have choice in your relationship.
Yeah. What does it mean, or what does it look like to choose?
See, I said those words.
Yeah, to choose your relationship. Yeah, exactly. You know that.
Oh, thank goodness.
And one of the reasons why we wanted to, I'm just going to go meta immediately. One of the reasons why we decided on this topic was because, as two people who work and help people with their relationships, that's obviously the way in which we see the world. Like, that's the lens that we look through. And it's true, like, we're all in relationship with one another, whether we like it or not.
And just relationship and like relationship to the world, relationship to your work, relationship to your environment,
right, relationship to other people, like in relation to one another, coexisting or lack of coexisting. But we are all here together and we are all in relationship with one another. And sometimes in relationships, there are things that happen where you wish that they wouldn't have happened. You wish it wasn't that way. Mm-hmm. And so what does it really mean to choose your relationship and to choose to be in relationship even when you don't want to be? Because like some things where it's like, if you live in most places in the world, you have a relationship with capitalism. You might not want to have a relationship with capitalism, but that is the world that we live in. So you have a relationship with it, whether you like it or not. And so what does it mean to, and also like even in our personal relationships, not everyone is perfect. And so sometimes you're in
No one is perfect.
No one is perfect.
Everyone's like, wait, where are the perfect
Wait,
ones?
what? So you mean there are No one is perfect. That said in a much...
Sit down. No one is perfect.
Calm down. Sit down. No one is perfect. No one is perfect. And so it is better to... not better. What am I trying to say? So there will be things that happen in relationships, and people will be ways that you don't like or you don't agree with. So how do you continue to choose when you don't like something or you don't agree with something? And why would you want to do that in the first place? Why is choice so important? I'm turning it over to you.
Well, hello. No, choice is important because you're being with what is actually true and based in reality, right? Like, and to also be in choice is also allowing, yourself and, say it's in a partnership, for instance, right? Like when there is choice as opposed to kind of just going with things and wishing it was different, like there's no genuine connection there. And so it's also allowing the opportunity for both yourself and your partner to genuinely connect, as opposed to connecting with the potential of someone or like what you wish they were doing or not doing, or and vice versa, like because you can feel
the
that
ideal of something rather than the reality of something.
And because you can feel that also from someone when they're not, like when they're not choosing you, right? Like in the genuine sense, right? They're choosing an made up version of you that they have. And in that, like it's with that lack of choice there's also I think it's like an inability to even feel free. Because I think most of the time when we think of freedom, it's like I get to do whatever I want, but it's like freedom is meaning of choice, right? Like you are free to choose what have you. But it's when you are actually in choice and choice based in reality, then that is freedom, right? And of course, like that doesn't mean that the choosing aspect of it is going to be easy or anything. Like it's like, oh, I see my choices, great, excellent. No, it's like no, like it's oftentimes very challenging still, right? But it's also coming from that space of being with what is. Okay, this person is not who I want them to be in this capacity. Like I want them to be a bodybuilder and they don't like weightlifting or something silly, but like oftentimes it is something very silly like that. But it's,
I wish they ate healthier.
I wish they ate healthier.
I wish they were more active. I wish that they played video games with me more. I wish that they
played video games less.
I wish that they cared more about politics or cared less about politics. Or I wish that they cared more about this religion or faith or
less. Or I wish they chewed quieter.
I wish they chewed quieter. It's so true. I wish that they cleaned the bathroom this way and not this way.
I wish that they steamed the broccoli as opposed to always frying it up. Just like, I mean, but there is a lot of those things, and oftentimes, there is the larger way of looking at things like that, and are those smaller ways of like, I wish you cleaned the bathroom in this sense. I wish you used this scent of soap as opposed to that. Right. But but it's again, it's like all these ways that, and in, you're not in that sense of like where you're getting frustrated, you're feeling resentful, you're feeling angry about whatever it is that you're like, well, I wish, or they could just do this. It's so easy. I don't understand. Like you're not being in choice in that, right? Because you're just continuing to be like, yeah, I wish this, and you're not actively like choosing what actually is, right?
Yeah, one of the analogy that I got from a seminar a long time ago was flat tire choose. Like, you know, the situations in your life where it's like there actually isn't, because we think about choice as in there's two or more options for something and then you choose that thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about, you know, being empowered and choosing your reality even if you don't agree or like that reality.
Mm-hmm.
And so like if you get a flat tire, you can either wish that you didn't have the flat tire or you can choose flat tire. Like, okay, I'm choosing flat tire. And that has a different ring to it. That has a different energy to it, right? Where it's like, okay, I'm choosing to have a flat tire. And that means that I need to figure out how to change my tire, or I need to call AAA, or I need to, you know, whatever. Like there's, like, but when you're with the reality of something, then you can actually move forward. You can take the next step instead of just staying frustrated or hopeful or wishing. Because, and, you know, bringing it back to relationships where it's like, yeah, that person is not going to chew any differently. Like they've been chewing like that their entire life. They're not going to chew any differently, and like, does it really make a difference in your relationship? I don't know. That's a question for you, but
yeah, I mean, it's like, you know, those things where it's like you can talk to people about things of like, hey, this thing, you know, it's like it's just what they do. It's like,
yeah. Or
it's so funny. It's such a common thing.
Yeah, it's that's so common. That is oh my god. Well, I mean, I've had partners where I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe you chew that way. It drives me absolutely insane.
I'm literally like, there were people that I dated in college that I was like, we cannot date further beyond this point. Like, I was just like, I can't do it. I'm so sensitive to auditory things, so that's why it's like,
yeah,
it's a big one for me.
Yeah, totally. Or it's just like, yeah, but so what are you choose? And the other thing too is that like if you are choosing something in your relationship, that does not mean that you need to tolerate that either.
Yeah.
Like you can like be at choice and then choose something different, right? Like okay, I'm at choice, like I'm choosing that I'm in a relationship with someone who choose this. That's a terrible analogy because then it's choose. Okay, never mind. Who cleans the bathroom this way?
Yeah. There we go.
Who cleans the bathroom this way, right? Like, okay, I'm choosing to be in this relationship. Like, am I really choosing to be here? Right? Like, that's the question. Am I really choosing to be here? Or, you know, am I choosing to leave the relationship because this is untenable for me? But then there are some things like the flat tire where it's just like that flat tire is not going anywhere, you know? And that might be stuff with yourself, like choosing your past. Your past is not ever going to change. Your past is always going to be your past. What you've done in the past, what other people have done in your past, the relationships that you've had, the choices that you've made, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like your past is now like a flat tire. So can you choose? And same with your partners, same with your kids, same with your parents, same with your et cetera. You know, there are some things where it's like, no, that just is the way that it is now. There's no going back and changing it now. And so choosing, like, okay, like I am choosing to see, to recognize that this is something that I've done in my past, or this is something that has happened, or this is the, you know, this is how it has gone so far, right? And being in that choice, standing in that position of like, I'm choosing to see reality for the way that it is super powerful, because then you can take the next step. If you're living in an illusion, or you're being delusional, which is literally like seeing reality and then choosing not to recognize it, that is delusion, then you can't take powerful steps forward. Every step forward that you take is still going to tie you into that past, because you can never escape from it.
Yeah.
Right? So just because you're delusional does not mean that is going to change anything about, your past or what happened or what you said or whatever it was, right?
Yeah, it's just being, it's being with the fact that you're staring at a flat tire. You're staring at the fact of, some sort of hurtful thing in the past, whether it was from you or from someone else towards you, right? Like, but in that, I think that's the challenge of, because I'm sure people are like hearing this and being like, I don't want to choose, this thing.
This is a tough subject.
Yeah, like, and that's why I'm like, I'm trying to like be like, okay, like breaking it down more. Like, I love the flat tire thing, but it's like to be like, you're choosing to be in the space of just like looking at it for what it is. Like, that's right. And then like, what you were just saying is like, and then from that space, that's where the power comes, because then you are actually able to then go, okay, what do I want to do now? Mm-hmm. Recognizing that this tire is flat, or that, no, like I've had these conversations with my partner and they refuse to stop drinking. Right. Mm-hmm. And it's, they're getting drunk all the time or whatever it is. Right. Like instead of being like, no, they said they're going to get better. They said they're going to stop. They said, or I know that they can, like, instead of like, you're choosing to be in the space with, no, my partner does this thing.
Right.
And so then you're in that space with that truth. Like, you see it, it's written down, you're looking at it and going, okay. And then from that space, you then get the sense of that empowerment to actually make changes. Like, you cannot change anything that you won't be with.
Right.
Right. Like, because then it's like you're trying to change something that like it's like you're just being, like you said, like it's an illusion. Right. Like, it's like you're just playing an imaginary kind of game at that point, versus when you're in reality, you can actually make changes in that tangible sense. Right. And so it's like, yeah, at that space, you're choosing to be with it. So it's like, just imagine like sitting in a little room, boom, here's the truth. And then it's like, okay, and from that space, what do I want to choose to do or say or whatever it is, or ask questions about to get maybe like, okay, but I want more clarification around this, or right, or whatever it is. So it's from that space, then it's like, okay, right, like, because it's like, even if you look at the flat tire thing, like, okay, I'm choosing to be with the fact that there's a flat tire. And maybe you're like, well, I can fix it. And like, you've never done it in your life. You don't know anything about it. Right. And then you start to like, it's like, then versus being like, okay, maybe, let me ask questions. Do I know how to change a tire? No. Would me outside in the dark in the pouring rain be a good time to learn how to do that? Right. Like, it's like, okay, well, let's be with that fact too. Right. Like, the reality of, I don't know how to do this. And so it's like, oh, maybe I then choose to call, a service to come help me, or I call a friend, or whatever.
Or it's like, that's not available for me, so looks like I'm going to start watching YouTube videos. Like, hopefully you have service on your phone. Or it's like, I don't have any service. It is in the middle of the night. I do need to change this tire. So looks like I'm going to learn how to change a tire in the middle of the night.
Or you're like, well, I saw a thing a mile back, like a little like, general store or whatever. It's like, maybe I need to walk past there, but like being in that space where you start to ask questions around,
right,
what are my options here? What do I want to choose moving forward? Because again, that's coming from that space of empowerment. Because if you're going, my tire is not flat, it will be fine. Actually, I can do that. Like, no, it's fine. I can just keep driving. Like, all those kinds of things. It's like, you are now like just creating more challenge for yourself, and not actually, being in that space where you, like you said, like, you can move forward, whatever that looks like. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think one of the things that you brought up that I want to mention in relationships is like the pattern that's been happening in a relationship, right? Like if someone has continually said one thing but done another thing, and you have had conversations with them, like if you haven't had a conversation directly with them, maybe that's the next step. Hey, you have been saying that you will do this, but then you've been doing this. And I want to know what's going on. Like, why are you saying that you're going to do this and then you don't do it?
Yeah, like what's getting in the way
What's
of
getting
you
in the way?
Not doing the thing that you said you would do.
Yeah, like what's there for you? What's coming up for you? Like maybe that's the first step, is getting curious around that. And then maybe you've already done that and you've already had those conversations and they're like, oh, well, what's in the way is that I just keep forgetting. I just totally keep forgetting. Okay, great. What support do you need around that? What are you going to put in place? Is this something that you even still want to do? Right? Like checking in with them, because sometimes people feel obligated. And so it's like, if someone feels obligated, that's also another reason why they might not be doing what they said that they would do. And so it's like, okay, do you still want to do this thing? Like, that's one of my first questions that I ask people when they have said that they're going to do something, but they haven't done it, right? Is like, do you still want to do that? Is that still something that's important to you? Like, is there anything like mentally going on for you around that first? Before like what's physically in your way, like forgetting, not putting it on your calendar, or like not having the, tools for it, or whatever it is. And then like kind of going down the line, right? So it's like, but you're still choosing to be with reality inside of that, right? Where it's just like, okay, like let's just stay with the facts of it. And you can still, and I think also in choosing, I think what I want to say is what I don't mean, some of the things that I don't mean by choice, I don't mean accepting or tolerating behavior that doesn't work. It just means being with the reality that there is behavior that doesn't work, whether it's yours or someone else's. And I think a lot of the time, recognizing your own like unworkable behavior is really hard, because we have a great capacity to give ourselves excuses and justify why we're not doing what we said that we were going to do. Right? So first, like looking there, like, okay, am I giving myself a bunch of reasons and excuses and passes, instead of just being with that I don't want to do this thing, or I haven't done this thing, or I said that I would do this thing, but it hasn't gotten done yet, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's like, it's not accepting or tolerating or excusing or justifying or anything like that. It's not even agreeing. It's, choosing something is not necessarily agreeing with something. Choosing something doesn't even necessarily mean that you understand something either. Like if your partner did something that you just don't understand, like choosing to be like, okay, like I got it. That's what they just did. That's what they just said. And being with the reality of that is not accepting it. It's not agreeing with it. It's not understanding it even. It's just being like, okay, this is what just happened. My partner just said this terrible thing about my best friend. That's what just happened. And just like being with that reality. I'm actually thinking of a TikTok video that I saw the other day, where I was just like, girl, you are not being with the reality of the situation. What was happening was she was telling the story about how her and her girlfriend went to this bar, and before they went to the bar, and this was like this was also inside of like a longer conversation about their relationship, but before they had gone to the bar, the girlfriend, they were like, oh, well, I want to be, just in their relationship in general, like not just like that day, they didn't say this, but in their relationship in general, she had been talking about how she wanted to be in an open relationship. And the girl who was making the TikTok was like, yeah, agreed. She was like, yeah, I agree. I want to be in an open relationship too. And so it was like, okay, great. And then, you know, the story was about a night that they went to a bar, and girlfriend who was making the TikTok, like her partner told her, oh, I want to, you know, like don't tell anyone that we're together. Don't tell anyone that we're in a relationship. Because if you tell someone that we're in a relationship, then they won't want to like flirt with us or like date us or something like that. Like, she just wasn't being very clear about why she didn't want her girlfriend to say that she was in a relationship. And then as the story went on, the girlfriend who had said, don't tell anyone that we're in a relationship, is like flirting with other girls, like even having other girls like sit on her lap, like all this stuff. And then girlfriend who's telling the TikTok story of this later started to flirt with other girls too, but then girlfriend who was also flirting got really mad at you know, that so like what it turned into was like the girlfriend who wasn't in the TikTok was trying to control the situation, and then also trying to tell her girlfriend that she was like overreacting, all of this stuff. And so the girlfriend who was giving, you know, sharing the TikTok was like, am I the one who's overreacting? Am I the one that's crazy? Like, you know, and it's just like, no, you're not. You are not the one that is crazy. Like, allow yourself to be in the and it's really hard when you really love someone, because you're like, part of your brain is just like, they wouldn't do this to me. Like, they, you know, they really love me. They must have a reason for doing this. There must be something that I'm not seeing, you know, something like that, right? Where when you are with reality, like, wow, I'm with someone who doesn't want me to tell other people that we're in a relationship, who wants to flirt with other people to the point of like them like physically sitting on them, but then gets mad at me for doing the same thing. And then and now I'm the one that thinks I'm crazy. It's like being able to take a step back and be like, oh, this is what's going on right now, and then being able to choose that, and again, not in a way like choosing it like staying in the relationship, but choosing as in like, oh, I'm choosing to be with this reality. Like, I am choosing to be in the reality of my girlfriend doing these things to me. Do I want to continue to choose to be in this reality? Like, what is the next step that I want to take? Right? Does that communicate?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's again, it's just, you know, the way that I'm, because of my visual mind, it's just like really like you walk into the room and go, okay, well, this is what's on the drawing board, right? Is X things about girlfriend, right? And just like choosing to be in that space, because it's more, again, it's just being with what has been presented, what is reality, and then from that space, what is your next move? And, you know, maybe that's like, having a conversation, you know, with the partner, and, you know, going from there, right, of like, I have questions, and you know, asking those questions, and then from that space you can choose again what you want to do. But it's really just being with that, choosing that doesn't mean tolerating, condoning, or anything like that, but it's really just being in the space that then allows you to go, oh, what do I want to do from here, right? Because when you get stuck in the space of, oh yeah, they wouldn't do that, or it's not that bad, or they're working on it, or I mean, I can see the potential in them though, so like they'll get there eventually, right? You know, like all of that just keeps you in a space of like stagnation, and lack of choice and freedom, really, because you're just living in fantasy land. You know, and this stuff we all do, but it's, you're not allowing, again, you're not allowing that genuine connection, or even the possibility of like the genuine connection, because you're
Mhm.
not being with what is, and choosing from that space. And
Yeah.
and again, it just, like, just notice like where you feel frustrated with like a partner, or resentful. Like resentment is a great indicator of so many things. But yeah, just resentment. And it can, and oftentimes it can be like, oh, what am I not like choosing to be with about myself too, right? Because it's like you were saying, how we tend to make excuses galore for ourselves,
Yeah.
or but it's, because there's all kinds of tough things that are really hard to be within ourselves. And so, we make these excuses of, maybe, yeah, I haven't done that thing because I'm avoiding being with the fact that I'm just severely depressed, or I am like just stuck in a rut, and I don't want to be with that because I've never been stuck in a rut. I've never been in this space, and I don't want to be in that, right? And so avoiding that that choice to be with what is then just like keeping you in this space where you're like, I'm not touching that thing, da, 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 versus when you're in that space and going, oh, yeah, if I choose to be there, then it feels really vulnerable, and then I need to ask for help, and I don't want to ask for help. And then I also have to acknowledge the fact that I've just been resenting my partner for things that's really just against myself. And oh man, I don't want to do that. Right? Like, there's so many reasons for those things, but
Yeah.
but just like looking at those kinds of indicators, or if there's like a thing in your partnership where it's like that cycle, right? Where it's like there's always that argument, there's always that thing that like sparks something that you're like, oh man, why wouldn't they just da 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 da? Or they're saying it to you like, why can't you just vacuum in this way? Like, why? Or like, why is it like being like, oh, what's that for us, right? And I mean, it's like those, it is like that, the argument pattern of like, you just wish I was different. And it's like, well, they kind of are wishing you were different. Like, they're not being with the fact of what is true here, right? And that doesn't feel good, obviously.
Mhm.
And so it's again, it's just like, this could be some like indicators of this lack of choosing to be in reality, like in terms of like what shows up in a relational dynamic.
Yeah. Yeah, and another example from a conversation recently is like choosing to be with people for who they are. Like, you can only meet people where they are at. And like, for example, this conversation was around emotional availability.
Mm-hmm.
And the person who was speaking to me was frustrated with their partner because their partner wasn't able to wasn't meeting them where they were at emotionally. And so they were like, well, what can I do to, be able to like have more emotional depth with this person? And I was like, well, one consideration is that they are meeting you at their emotional depth.
Mm-hmm.
You might have that, like, their emotional depth is Lake Erie and your emotional depth is the Pacific Ocean.
Mm-hmm.
So like, they are actually meeting you. Take the case, I don't know, but like, take the case that this person is actually meeting you at their emotional depth, and you wanting more from them is not choosing to meet them where they are at. Right? Like, you're not choosing who they are and where they are at. You are wishing that they were different and that they could meet you in a different place. And right now, they can't do that. And that's the other thing about choice too, is that choice is very much a right now phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
It's not sealing your fate about anything. It's not like nothing will ever change if if you're like, well, my partner is the way that my partner is right now. They might they might change, but if you have seen a pattern of behavior from them, then expecting them to change from that pattern, especially if you've already talked about it, or especially if they don't want to change. Some people don't want to change. You want them to change. They don't want to change. You want them to change, which is part of why you're so frustrated. And they're frustrated because it is frustrating for someone else to want you to change when you don't want to change.
Mm-hmm.
So it's also being able to recognize and be like, okay, do I still want to be in this relationship with this person if nothing ever changed? Mm-hmm. And that's choosing how it is right now. Mm-hmm. Do I still want to stay even if nothing changed about this situation? Do I still want to be here for this? Mm-hmm. Like, that's choosing. That's being at choice in your relationships. And I think when you spread that out, and that's like intimate relationships, but when you spread that out to community or family, like, am I choosing my family for exactly how my family is? And again, that doesn't mean agreeing. It doesn't mean condoning. It doesn't even mean understanding. Yeah. But it's just choosing to be with, this is how my aunt is. This is how my mom is. This is how my grandpa is. This is how my cousin is. Right? And again, it's a very right now phenomenon. It's not that people can't grow and change, but they have to decide that. You can't decide that for them. Mm-hmm. And so can you be with them as they are right now? Mm-hmm. And what does that mean for you? And what does that mean for your relationship? I mean, only you can answer that question, but you have to be able to be with the reality of, this is the be with the reality of reality.
Yeah. You know? I mean, because it's just going to guide your actions, or, you know, perhaps boundaries that you need to put in place, or just even looking at the example with like the emotional depth, for instance, right? Like, if, you know, regardless if it's a partner or family member, whoever, that it's like, oh yeah, like I want them to go deep with me, but it's like, you know, their capacity is not that deep. At that point in time, it's like, okay, then also, you know, being aware of like, you know, what is, you know, it's like, what am I expecting if I share this thing to them? Like, what am I expecting? Or like being like, okay, maybe I don't bring that topic up because like I want a lot of emotional depth support, and this person is unavailable for that, right? But that's like, again, it's choosing to then be with that and go, well, but, you know, I can, they're really supportive around this thing with me, so I can, you know, talk about that. Or like with family dynamics, for instance, of, okay, choosing to be with, you know, where this person is at on their journey. And that means I will talk to them once a year when I see them at the family gathering, right? And it will be very shallow conversation, right? Or it's even just recognizing like the time and energy that you want to put into a relationship, right? Of I can talk to this person, you know, once a month, or whatever it is, because like I can be in that reality once a month and be okay. Or maybe it's just like, yeah, this dynamic, this relationship, it doesn't work for me, right? And I think just even the, you know, when you choose to be with it as it is right now, knowing that, yes, it could change, and not being in that space of, well, it's going to change. It's like, no, right. Being with it like, as it is now, if it never changed, and knowing that could change for you, right? Of, I'm being with the fact that this person cannot, you know, doesn't want to go deep with me on emotional support or conversation, what have you. And like right now that works. Totally works. Choosing to be with that. In a month, still choosing to be with that. 6 months, you're choosing to be with that, but you're like, wow, there's literally no change here on their side, right? And you're like, oh, wait, do I want to choose to be here? Like, continue to have that kind of frequency of interaction, or type of relationship. And so it's you know, there is that flexibility in that temporary experience of choosing to be in that reality, right? Like, it's like, do I walk out of the room or not? Like, I come into the room, I can leave, I can, ask questions, all of that. So
Yeah. And I think also inside of this, because one of the pitfalls that I see with this, I mean, this is a really big concept.
mm-hmm.
It's a really in-depth concept. It's a very existential concept.
Yeah, I feel like this is such a big, that's why I'm like trying to break it down for real.
Yeah, and so like take this with a grain of salt. If this is like the first time that you've ever heard this concept before of like what it is to be at choice in your life, then maybe, take it slow. Like, don't make any decisions right now. Because I think that's like the biggest pitfall that I see people go into is that they're like, oh, well, I'm at choice with this, so therefore this is my decision. And I think that is a more ego-driven way to approach this, where if we can come at it from a more like even third-party point of view or a observer point of view, like allowing yourself to take as much charge and story out of the conversation first, like with the flat tire, right? Where it's like, if you're immediately coming from like, F this flat tire and I'm so frustrated and this car is stupid anyway and blah, 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 and I'm just going to leave it on the side of the road and I'm powerfully choosing that. It's like, that's not being a choice. That is being really frustrated and having an FU response, which is totally normal. And I'm not ragging on anybody for having that. That's my initial response. So I'm not judging anybody for that. My initial response is, F this car. I don't need this car anyway.
It is her response.
But that is definitely a lot more from my ego. And not from like a powerfully choosing and like being with the reality of the situation, and coming from a more like neutral, this is the reality of the situation. So like the neutral reality is, I have a car, it has a flat tire, I'm on the side of the road, it's 3 a.m. Like that's being neutral about the reality of the situation, right? So it's like, I have a partner, they are going through this thing in their life, they just said this to me, like the emotions that are coming up for me are this, okay, like that's what's happening right now. And so being at choice is not necessarily about making a decision. In fact, when I first learned this, we made the distinction between choice and decision, right? Like choice meaning that you are with all of the reality of it, and then choosing your next move, where decision is cutting something off, right? Like the FU response, that's a decision.
Interesting.
Like a decision is cutting something off. You're like, you see, and that's where we get when we get into more like survival mode, is that usually we only see one of two options, because literally when we get into survival mode, our ability to think creatively shuts down.
Yeah. I mean, you're in survival mode, so it's literally life or death.
Yeah,
right?
life or death.
Survival mode.
Yeah. Be with the stupid car or leave the stupid car, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
And that's literally that's literally what it is. And so like being at choice is allowing yourself to slow down, to move through those survival responses, and then to come to a place where you're able to be more neutral, see reality for what it is, and then choose your next move, right? Where you literally are considering all the options as things are, and then choosing your next move from there, where a decision is like, this car is stupid, I'm leaving, That's the decision. Cutting the car off. Where it's like someone looking from the outside could be like, wow, there were so many other things that you could have done in that situation.
I mean, like that's the thing too, that if you apply it to a relationship, right? Like you're dating this person, it's cool, it's chill, and you go over to their house and you see that they have a specific sense of soap in the bathroom, and you're like, absolutely not. Right. I am deciding to end this. And so if you say that to like a friend, for instance, and you're recounting the story, the friend's like, well, what else? What? Like, you know, like everything else was fine? Yeah, but the soap, oh my God. Or the way they cooked the spinach.
I could never trust anyone who buys this brand. Yeah, you know?
Like, just like, and you're just like, is that it? Was there any conversation? Like, what happened there, right? But it's like that quick, you know, like cut off kind of thing, because you're just like, nope, okay, done, bye, right? And of course, like, yeah, there's like things, there are severe red flags that like one thing happens and you're like, okay, goodbye. But you know, a scent of a soap or the way they cook something or things like that, where you're just like, wait, what do you mean you just ended it with them? You just left your car on the side of the road? What? You know, like it's just like, oh, I feel like there were other options instead of that. What happened here? And so it's, you know, those kinds of things that do happen, you know, in relationships in general too, right? So just like noticing that for yourself. Because there are plenty of people with that kind of pattern, right? You start to date, the first thing, boom, bye. Go start dating another person, boom, bye.
Right. Exactly. And so, and also it's not about the action itself. So not taking, what I wouldn't want you to take away from this conversation is that you have to find the right way to choose. Like, oh, if it's about the soap, then that's not a choice. But if it's about, you know, how they feel about a certain like political stance, then that's a choice. You know what I mean? Like that's not what I want you to take away from this situation at all. Or the situation, this
episode
conversation. Thank you. I'm like, what is English? I don't know. That is not what I would want you to take away from this conversation at all. What I want you to take away is that ability to look from a more neutral point of view. Oh, what was the thing that I was gonna say? That sounded so that's so anticlimactic. I'm so sorry. I was just like, the one thing that I want you to take away, and I wouldn't want you to do this. It's like in a movie when they're like, don't ever for any reason do, and then like something happens, you don't get to hear the thing or whatever. But I can just think of situations where like maybe it would be the best choice to leave the car on the side of the road.
Yeah.
Right? Like, but you're coming from like, you have considered your options. You are being with the reality of that. You're not just saying like, F you car. You're actually being like, oh, actually, this car is, like now needs to be towed and I need to walk to the gas station to, you know, use the phone because my phone is dead. Mm-hmm. And so maybe, you know, the action to take is leaving the car on the side of the road, but how you're doing that, how you reached that conclusion was through choosing to be with the reality of it and looking at what the best option is for you.
Yeah.
Right.
There's like and maybe this is from my own experience of this, but it's like there's more of a stillness in it when you're coming from that.
Yeah.
Right. And that's not to be like, oh, it's so peaceful and zen. Like, no. Like that's all I'm like.
It could be.
I mean, it could, but that's not like every time you're just like, I'm just searching for the peaceful Zen option.
Hold on, let me turn into Buddha so that I can be at choice.
Right. Like, and I think, I mean, for me, like, and I think about one of my first relationships in the choosing to be with what was happening and to not, because I was in that state of, well, it'll be better, and I don't, yeah, like, I don't know, I'm just going crazy, like, she's fine, like, da 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 da, but like, when it got to that point where I was then choosing to be with the reality of the situation, which sucked, but I was choosing to be with it, and in that space, like, that's where I say I found stillness, in the sense of I wasn't being like this or that or da 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 da. Like, it was like more of like, okay, this is what's happening. These are the conversations we have already had. She has said she would do these things. She is not doing said things.
Right.
This is how she continues to treat me. And what do I want to do from that space?
Right.
Right. And in that, it's like, yeah, choosing to end the relationship. And it was obviously really sucky and hard, but in that, like, there wasn't that, like, that frenetic energy to it, right?
Yeah.
Like, it was like,
It's not dramatic.
it's not dramatic. And
Yeah.
like, you know, for her, she started losing her shit. But, you know, like, but that wasn't like, for me, it was like, no, like, I have actually looked at all the things here. I have had these conversations already.
I've done what I know to do.
Like, I know that.
Yeah.
And this is this, right? Like, this is hard. There is grief, there is sadness, there is hurt. And I am coming from that space of choice in that, you know, and finding the sense of empowerment and freedom for myself, because it's like, well, I'm like, being in reality allowed me to like have that openness to then go, yeah, like, this is actually what is best for me, you know? And so again, like, that's why I like, it's like, it's stillness in the sense of like, there's that lack of like such frenetic and chaotic kind of energy that we can often find ourselves in when we are coming kind of from more ego driven or like reactive survival kind of state of mind.
Yeah. And also, like, inside of that, forgiving yourself for not having been with the reality before, because sometimes it does take, like, you fall in love with someone. I'm thinking of, my marriage, which ended up being an abusive marriage. And like, you fall in love with this person, and the reason why people stay in either unhealthy or abusive relationships is because you love them. Like, you think that there's potential. You believe them when they say things. You try to take things, you try to be positive, like, you try to be optimistic. You try to believe, you want to believe the person that you love, right? So if you're in a situation, and actually what I'll say is, like, for me, it took several years of my context of the relationship was like, no, this is a working relationship. There are just some things about it that don't work. And then after a certain point, I realized that it was actually a not working relation, like, that the context of the relationship itself was not working, right? Whereas before it was like, no, this is a working relationship. There's just these and these things that don't work about it. And then it was like, after some time and like seeing some patterns and having some bad shit happen, it was like, oh, actually, this relationship doesn't work, period. And so sometimes it takes time to see what your reality is. Right? So the fact, and everyone goes through this.
Yeah.
So it's okay if you have not been able to be with the reality of your situation up until now. Or it's okay if it takes some time to really see what that is. You know, like it's not always like the flat tire one is a really great example because you can clearly you can clearly see that you have a flat tire or not, right?
No, relationship is gonna be like, even, you know, just my example that I used from that, like it's like it was almost a year for me to get to that point.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like it can take time, you know, it could take even longer. Right? Like the complexities of these things.
Yeah, totally. Because it's not just like there's a flat tire or there's not a flat tire when it comes to relationships.
Yeah, there's so many different nuances.
There's a lot of nuance to it, exactly. And also, don't let yourself, like, I want to do a yes and with the nuance thing. Yes, there's nuance, and don't let yourself get bogged down in the nuance so much that you can't see the reality.
Right, yeah, like it can easily become that distractor.
It can, yeah, the nuance can also become the distractor as well. So it's like if someone like yelled at you and belittled you, my suggestion is to not get bogged down in the nuance of, well, they had a bad day, or, well, I did this, or, well, da 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 da. It's like, no, let's just be with the reality that they yelled at you and they belittled you. Okay, sure, maybe there's other circumstances around that. Okay, fine. And that's what just happened. Let's be in that reality for a second. And it's hard. It is hard to like look, or if you did something shitty, that's really hard too, where it's like, wow, I really need to be with the reality of my choice to behave that way or to do that thing. And it takes a lot of bravery to really be with the reality of whether it's your bad or their bad, right? Like it takes a lot of bravery to like really just be with like, okay, that just happened, right? Let's talk about it. Let's deal with that. Let's own up to it. Like that's the time for it. When you're at choice, you can also have accountability and responsibility too. Right? When you're at choice, you can have better boundaries. When you're at choice, then you can have clearer conversations and be like, no, this is what happened.
Yeah, and to like also on the repair side of things and make amends for things, because it's like, again, you can't tend to what you're not being with, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're like, no, I didn't say that, or I didn't do that, and you're like, no, that would, or they're saying that, whatever it is.
Right.
But it's like, yeah, well then nothing can change from that.
Right. Or I had another conversation recently where someone was holding another person accountable who usually brushes things under the rug, and then it was a friendship situation. It's like the friend one was like, hey, you did a shitty thing and I need an apology before we move forward in our friendship, and you've done this more than once. And we just keep brushing it under the rug, and I'm not willing to brush it under the rug anymore. Like, I need you to recognize that this was not okay in order for us to move forward. And friend two, like, didn't talk to them for a couple months and then tried to send a text message that was like, hey, how's it going? Blah, 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 blah. Like, again, trying to brush things under the rug. And friend one was like, no. I said, I need an apology before we move forward. I'm not going to brush this under the rug again. Right? And it's just like, so that's like, that is powerfully being with reality right there. Like, freaking kudos. And it's freaking hard.
It's hard. And
it's really hard.
I mean, I think that also just is I mean, that's a tough example, but it's it's an example too of also perhaps, you know, advocating for yourself and like inviting the person into reality with you. Especially, you know, sometimes like people just don't understand perhaps the impacts of, you know, their actions or their behaviors, you know, of something that affected you, and you're like in that space of reality, but they like don't know an aspect of that, so they can't really be with the reality of it, right? Unless you're like, hey, this is the reality, and then they're like, oh wow, like, and then they choose to be in that space with you, or they're like, no,
Yeah, totally. Yeah, well, because I've been the person called out before where someone's like, hey, Elizabeth, like, this really wasn't cool. And I, honest to God, did not know that whatever had happened or whatever I had said was hurtful. I was like, which happens sometimes. Like, we all come from different perspectives. We all come from different points of view. And so we can't always know what's going to be hurtful for the people in our lives. And I'm a very like teasy, sarcastic person. And I had said something in a very teasy, sarcastic way. And this person was like, wow, I was really hurt when you said that. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I had no idea that that was hurtful for you. And we had a conversation about like what they needed in our relationship to move forward. And it was something where I was like, okay, well, I'm going to be more sensitive to my sarcasm and my teasing moving forward. But I also let them know, I was like, I'm probably not going to just stop being teasy and sarcastic. Like, that is a part of like my humor and like how I operate and all of this stuff. Like, I will do my darndest. And also like, if you want to stay in relationship with me, you know, you have to like know that this is that I do use sarcasm as humor, you know? And so, you know, it's gotta be, but it was able to be talked about, but we were talking about reality, right? It's like, hey, I was hurt by this thing that you said. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Let's talk about that. How can we move forward in our relationship? And I was also being really honest with like, I'm not going to just like promise that I'm going to stop being sarcastic for the sake of our relationship. That's not true. I can't promise you that. That would be an unsafe, unrealistic, not being with reality promise of me to make that would have just come from people pleasing.
Yeah.
If I would have been like, oh, well, I'll just never be sarcastic around you ever again. It's like, that's not true because that's not who I am and that's not how I operate. And like, of course, I want to be sensitive to like what you're sensitive to and to make sure that I am being as respectful as possible around you. But I can't promise that I'm not going to be sarcastic. That's just not realistic. You know, and you know, eventually we actually ended up not being friends anymore because it was just like, that wasn't something that they wanted to. I mean, there was other stuff that happened, but like, that was just one thing. But it was just being with the reality of that and then like being really real about, you know, who I am too. Yeah. Yeah.
Being with reality.
Being with reality. And it's not a black and white thing either. I think that's what I want to leave on too. I think that we want to have a lot of certainty and we wish that things were black and white, but I also think being at choice is also being with that life is not black and white. Like, things are not going to be just cut and dry. And so being with uncertainty, I think, is also like choosing life, like choosing that life is not going to be certain, choosing that things are going to need to be talked about and worked on, choosing that if we want to really stay in this together, that we'll have to work through difficult things, choosing that if we, you know, in this life that we need to recognize when we're the problem too. Anything else you want to say? Or mic drop moment? I don't know.
Like when you said you wanted to end on that. No.
Oh,
like,
okay. Well,
I was like, well, the note has been spoken.
The note has been okay.
But like, again, what?
Well, that's what I wanted to end on. I don't know if there's anything that you wanted to end on.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just like choosing to be with the messiness of life. That's really, it's just, it's gonna be messy. And like letting that be the reality of it, because that's what's happening.
Yeah. Totally. I love you.
I love you.
We love you.
We love you. Bye.
Goodbye. We love you.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Queer Love Podcast. We would love to hear from you. Drop us a line on TikTok, Instagram, or Twitter at Queer Love Relationships, or email us at queerloverelationships@gmail.com.
If you are interested in working with us, follow the Linktree link in the show notes. See if our offers resonate with you, and if they do, sign up with us or book a discovery session.
We are so grateful that you're here, listening, learning, and growing with us.
Until next time, keep loving.